Welcome, boys and girls. As you can see, we have the LS in the Squarebody. I already have the whole accessory drive hooked up with the belt on. I did the valley pan cover, the coolant crossovers, and the intake fully hooked up along with the coil packs and the spark plug wires. So we got all that squared away, and in this video we're going to be doing pretty much everything else. Cold air intake, our DIY ground and power wire kit, the radiator with the hoses and the adapters, hooking up the power steering, and any other odds and ends to help get this engine bay complete. So follow along, let's get all this done. Well, you guys, the first thing I'm going to be doing is installing the fittings and the hoses onto the power steering pump. For the longest time, I thought I had a 2 hose return style. Turns out I do not, so it makes this swap and this hookup even easier. I will go over it for you guys that have the 2 return hoses. Buy a brass 3/8 T-fitting. So buy a T-fitting, hook up your 2 returns into the T-fitting, and then run a single 3/8 hose from the last part of the T-fitting into the return. But you do, or I do not need that, so I'm just going to be hooking it straight up to the return, and then I should be able to thread this right into the back of the power steering box or the reservoir, because the thread pitch does match since it's an 80s vehicle, and I guess they've kept the same thread pitch for 20 plus years, so it should be able to work. If not, they do make adapters that I can pick up to make this hose work with the back of that power steering box. So that is the plan now. This is a messy process, so what I'm going to do is try to hook up this hose first into the back of the power steering box, get everything all sealed and good to go, and then get that top low pressure return hose hooked up and hose clamped, and then from there I could kind of show you guys the results. Here is the little correction I have for the power steering. I totally forgot about the low pressure return from the power steering box, or from the steering gear, so I did have to use the 3/8 T-fitting. This is not high pressure whatsoever. I think it's like 10-15 psi at the most, and the original hose is 3/8, so I got 3/8 here, or a little bit larger than 3/8, so we should not have any overpressuring issues or anything like that. So I just ran it straight from the box to the T. Still have it coming from up there, the brake booster, the power steering, and then all of it running to the return on the box. So we should not have any issues with that, because it's not being tied in with any of the high pressure stuff. So it's all just a return from what's not being used back into the reservoir. So we should be fine theoretically. All right, here's all the goods: the wire cutters, the crimpers, the lugs, and the heat shrink tubing. And it turns out I had wire left over from the diesel big wire kit kind of that I made for that truck, so, or for that motor. So I have more than enough left over, so I'm just going to reuse this, and then the extra 25-foot rolls of each that I bought, I'll just store for another day. I do have a good old Harbor Freight heat gun for the heat shrink, but this should be more than enough to do any of the powers and the grounds, and I will have links to all of this down in the description below. I picked up all this off Amazon, and it's been solid for me. So we'll get to measuring it out. I got the battery installed on the battery tray, so then we can use that as a point of reference for all of our powers and grounds. So let's get to it. Here we go. Here is the power and the grounds. This is actually the wire that goes from the battery to the starter. I forgot to measure for that one, so got it measured and cut out. Ran out of heat shrink, so the heat shrink on this one is not the greatest, but I'll get some more and make that better. And then I did run out of black heat shrink, so I just threw red ones on the end of the grounds. Should be able to tell the difference with no issues. Got the power wire, or the charging wire, from the back of the alternator there, hooked up right there, and then ran it to the battery. Just got it kind of laid up in place, but with all of these wires being made, I'm going to get them secured down from the head to the frame, block to the frame, and you know, pretty much everywhere else. So I'll get all those in and then show you guys the final product. All right, boys and girls, let's go over the powers and the grounds. But coming from here, we'll start off with the powers first, from the battery, or from the alternator to the battery. And then this is the power to the starter that I have running through here. Figure out a way to secure it underneath, and then it runs over to where the starter will go way back there. There is the first ground from the block on the side to the frame. I cleaned up everything with acetone and some sandpaper, so it is bare metal connections to have the best grounds possible. From there, went from clean spot on the frame to the battery here, a negative, and then a ground from the same spot to inside there. Maybe we could see better back here, onto the cylinder head there on the face of it somewhere. Let me show you another angle, sorry about that. To that spot there on the cylinder head. So everything should be grounded. Block to frame, passenger cylinder head to firewall, driver's cylinder head to frame, battery to frame, alternator to battery. And then I will need to, for when I do my auxiliary battery and rerun the power wire to that, I will have to jump from here, probably run either the same route underneath, or I'll go across the firewall, loop down, jump down to the frame over there, and then run it to the back. So when that time comes, I'll get all that hooked up when it is time. So we are done with all that. The next step I'm going to get to is the cold air intake. We're going to get the cold air intake in place. And then I got an idea using some flat bar, because the cold air intake does not reach where I want it to go. So I got an idea with some flat bar to kind of have a cold air intake underneath the hood of the Squarebody. So I'll get all that out of the box, and then we'll start to get it together. Well, you guys, this is kind of my idea for the cold air intake. Comment down below if you think it's a good idea or not. Have the elbow on the throttle body. Kind of, let me move this elbow. Kind of get the elbow on the throttle body like that. Take this tube, get it in there far enough for the hose clamp to secure it. And then I have this bracket that's on it, and I bought 3 feet of flat bar so I could drill a hole in the frame and to secure it to the frame, and then run it up to this tab to help hold it rigid right there. And then the filter will kind of go on the inner fender right here, kind of out of the way. There is the gap here between the frame and the inner fender well, so cool air will be coming in through there. And the hole that is in the header panel that I ran the oil cooler lines through for the diesel, that will be rushing in with cool air also to help feed this filter. So kind of like that. I do have a map sensor that will go kind of in that gap right there. And then I have a manifold temp sensor that I have to drill and tap this tube for. That'll go right on top there that the terminator plugs into. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the cold air intake is in. The bracket is in place. This thing is not moving anywhere. It is nice and rigid and stiff, so I don't think it's going to move at all. It is a little close to the idler, the ribbed idler pulley up top. It's about 3/4 of an inch, but I think that'll be just fine. I can always adjust this if I think it is getting too close. But we are good to go. This was actually one of my biggest worries about this motor swap, surprisingly, just because I didn't know what to do intake wise, because I did want or need all of these sensors. So those are all there and good to go. So yeah, I am very happy with it. Next step is, since I have the grounds, the power steering hooked up, everything hooked up like majorly that I need, next step is to put on the header panel and then do the radiator and start hooking up radiator hoses and the coolant overflow and everything like that. All right, boys and girls, as you can see, obviously it is nighttime and we are out here jamming. Got a few trail sodas, and I think it is time to install the header panel, radiator, and the cooling system, and put a little bow on this video and have a good night. So let's get this header panel fully installed, and then from there we'll get the radiator in and the hoses, and I'll show you kind of my idea with the hoses with couplers to adapt it to the LS style radiator hoses. So I go in there and grab that header panel and enjoy some of this trail soda. All right, I got the header panel in place. Oh gosh, I really hope this cold air intake clears. And this thing's heavy. Just lift it up. Kind of just resting on the frame. Let's get these wires in here. I don't want to pinch those headlights. Destroy the wire harness. Get those tucked in. Just like the last time, I'm gonna have to give this a smack. Kind of get this in place, kind of pry it in there. There it is. Go in your home. Oh, that's very loud on the ears. Boom. Like a glove. Okay. Me. Just kind of sort of line up. Oh no, I'm missing the body mounts. So I'll lift it up a little, stuff the body mounts in there. And then the plan is to get the 2 studs through to go into the front hangers to hold this in place on the bottom. And then we'll put in whatever needed bolts on the side. Kind of like my Cherokee, taking the header panel off 1,000 times now. I'm only putting the necessary bolts, so it is easy to access in case I ever have to pull this off again. It will be a lot easier. So that's kind of the plan, is just in strategic spots and spots where it won't rattle, but it'll be easy to remove. I will put the bolts in place, but first step is body mounts. So let's get those bolted in. All right, got the header panel back on. The plan is put on the front grille next, and then from there we will get the radiator in and get the new isolators, everything on the top panel to help hold the radiator in place. And then from there we'll start cutting up hoses, and I will show you guys my plan to make the 6.2 radiator work with this LS. All right, got the rubber isolators in place, so let's get this radiator in. Cut on the headlamp. And headlamp's buried die, but we got the radiator in place. Beautiful. And it looks like, I will show you guys, but it looks like I got clearance with the intake, and it looks like I have an issue with the intake also. Geez. Looks like clearance with the filter, but no clearance with the brace coming off the frame. Uh-oh. Kind of looks like we have an issue, guys. Looks like the outlet for the radiator is going to interfere with the brace, or the brace is going to interfere with the radiator. So that looks like an issue we're gonna have to fix. So yeah, let me get that figured out real quick. And I'm thinking about just bending the brace, and then from there it should lightly clear the lower radiator hose. It is secured down, good to go. I had to move the intake and the brace so that it is not interfering with the radiator outlet down here and the water pump inlet right here. So we have the clearance we need. We are good to go. So let me show you my hose setup over here. So here's the plan with the radiator hoses to make them work. I bought this 3-foot piece of 1 3/4 radiator hose off Amazon. And then I have 2 of the original 6-liter LS upper and lower radiator hoses. I have about 8 hose clamps, and then I have it is a 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 adapter for the upper hose, and then a 1.5 to 1 3/4 adapter for the lower hose. So the plan is to make about 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches of this come out of the radiator on the top and bottom, and then coupler, and then cut the hoses, whatever excess I need off of, or I don't need off of each of the hoses, to make it work with the coupler and to the inlet and outlet hose I'll be putting on. So I'm gonna cut a couple 6-inch lengths, or I'll go about 4-inch lengths, and then from there hose clamp the couplers to it, and then I will kind of show you guys what I'm gonna do for measuring for cutting off any of the excess of the radiator hoses. All right, checking that out. That is the 1 3/4 radiator hose stubbing out from the lower outlet for the water pump end for the inlet, and then here is the top, same thing with the adapter. And then I'm just going to run the hose to here. So let me grab the hose real quick, show you guys kind of what I'm talking about. Okay, so coming over here, so the hose will go on right there, and then it needs to go on, let me get down there, right here. So I need to just cut a decent amount of hose. I can mark it with a Sharpie because then I can still see it on the hose, but it's not too noticeable like white marker paint. But if I put it right there, kind of simulate where I will cut it, it'll loop around, it'll avoid all the hoses or all the belt, the alternator, everything like that, and still be able to work with that upper hose. So I will grab a Sharpie for this top one, mark it right there, chop this upper hose, and then hose clamp it, and this top part will be good. And then we will do the same thing with the bottom, and you guys will see the final result. Alright, you guys, let's check out the progress. I have the hoses fully done. If I don't like this, I can always just cut some extra off of this. I can even just have enough hose to bridge the full coupler and the full pipe coming out of the radiator if I really wanted, but I am not mad at this. It loops around, goes right into the top of the water pump, and then down here goes from the outlet of the radiator to the coupler and up to the water pump. So what's good about this is I can write down these part numbers for these hoses, or they're just from a 03 Chevy 2500 6-liter. Should be easy to remember. And then I will bring a few sections of this hose with us on every camping trip, just to play it safe in case we have any radiator hose issues. Then we can be able to do a trail fix and keep the adventure going. But by the way this looks, I think we're done with this video. Cooling system's done, grounds are done, intake's installed, power steering is looped all in for the returns, and we got a lot done in this video, so I am extremely happy with it. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. It means the world to me and the channel for all the support, all the views, likes, comments, everything. If you have not, please subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye, you guys.